Emma Parker's fingers trembled slightly as she read the email that had just appeared in her inbox. Her application for the lead massage therapist position at Tranquility Springs Spa had been accepted. After 5 years of working as a massage therapist in various establishments, this was her chance to finally break through to the next level of her career. The spa was the most prestigious in the city, with a reputation that extended well beyond the borders of Portland, and the salary would allow her to finally pay off her student loans. "Mom, I got it," Emma screamed into her phone minutes later. "I got the job at Tranquility Springs." "Oh, sweetheart, that's wonderful. I always knew you could do it," her mother's voice crackled through the speaker. "When do you start?" "Next Monday. They said they were particularly impressed with my deep tissue and hot stone techniques, and they love that I've been studying aromatherapy." After hanging up, Emma danced around her small apartment, her brunette curls bouncing with each step. At 28, she was finally starting to feel like her life was coming together. What Emma didn't know as she celebrated was that Tranquility Springs Spa had recently become the exclusive wellness provider for Granite Global Industries, a shipping and logistics conglomerate that had been making waves in the business world with innovative approaches to supply chain management. And she certainly had no idea that the CEO of Granite Global, Gabriel Yates, had been the driving force behind that partnership. Gabriel sat in his corner office overlooking Portland's skyline, rubbing his temples. At 34, he had built Granite Global from a small regional shipping company into an international powerhouse worth billions. The Wall Street Journal had recently featured him in their 40 Under 40 list, praising his business acumen and innovative management style. But Gabriel had a secret that none of the business magazines knew about. Despite his wealth and success, he was desperately lonely. His executive assistant, Melissa, knocked on his door. "Mr. Yates, the wellness program reports are in. The partnership with Tranquility Springs has been a huge hit with the employees. Stress-related sick days are down 20% in just 3 months." "That's excellent news," Gabriel said, straightening his tie. "And have you scheduled my appointment for Friday?" Melissa nodded, a knowing smile playing at her lips. "Yes, sir. Your deep tissue massage is confirmed for 2 p.m., just like every Friday for the past 3 months." Gabriel nodded, trying to appear nonchalant. What Melissa didn't know was that Gabriel's weekly appointments weren't just for his back pain. They were the only hour each week he spent with Emma Parker, the massage therapist with the gentle hands and infectious laugh who had captivated him since their first session. Emma's first week at Tranquility Springs had been a whirlwind of training, meeting colleagues and learning the spa's protocols. By Friday, she was exhausted but exhilarated. The spa manager, Victoria, approached her just before lunch. "Emma, I'm assigning you a VIP client this afternoon. He's been coming to us for several months now, and he's quite particular about his deep tissue work." Emma nodded, feeling a flutter of nervousness. "Of course. Who is it, Mr. Yates?" "He's one of our corporate clients, and he's been requesting Jasmine, but she's called in sick today." Victoria lowered her voice. "He's a big tipper, so just do your best to make him happy." At exactly 1:55 p.m., Emma finished preparing the treatment room. She had selected a blend of eucalyptus and peppermint oils, known for their ability to ease muscle tension and promote clarity. The lights were dimmed, soft instrumental music played through hidden speakers, and heated towels were ready. The door opened, and Victoria ushered in a tall man with broad shoulders and dark hair peppered with the slightest hint of gray at the temples. "Mr. Yates, this is Emma Parker, our new lead therapist. She'll be taking care of you today while Jasmine is out." Gabriel Yates turned to face Emma, and she was struck by the intensity of his blue eyes. He extended his hand, and Emma noticed how impeccably tailored his suit was. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Parker. I hope you won't mind that I'm very particular about my treatments." Emma smiled professionally, shaking his hand. "Not at all, Mr. Yates. I specialize in deep tissue work, and I'm confident you'll be satisfied." After Victoria left, Emma explained her routine and excused herself so Gabriel could disrobe and position himself on the massage table. When she returned, she tried to maintain her professional demeanor despite the butterflies in her stomach. There was something about this man that made her nervous in a way none of her other clients did. "So, Miss Parker, are you new to Portland?" Gabriel asked as Emma began warming the oil between her palms. "No, I've been here for about 5 years now. I moved here after massage therapy school in Seattle," she replied, beginning to work on his shoulders, which were tight with tension. Gabriel stifled a groan as her fingers found a particularly tight knot. "You have remarkable hands. Thank you. You're carrying a lot of tension here." "High-stress job," Gabriel chuckled. "You could say that." As the session continued, Emma found herself enjoying their conversation. Gabriel asked thoughtful questions about her technique and seemed genuinely interested in her responses. Unlike many clients who either remained silent or talked incessantly about themselves, he struck a perfect balance. When the hour ended, Emma stepped out to allow him to dress. As she waited in the hallway, she couldn't help but wonder about this mysterious Mr. Yates. He hadn't mentioned what he did for a living, and she hadn't asked, maintaining professional boundaries. Gabriel emerged from the room looking refreshed, his tie perfectly knotted and not a hair out of place. "That was excellent, Miss Parker. Much better than I expected, actually." Emma smiled, unsure why his praise made her cheeks warm. "I'm glad I could help. Would you like to schedule your next appointment?" "Absolutely. Same time next week." As Emma watched him walk away, she couldn't help but feel a strange connection to this client. She shook her head, dismissing the thought. He was just another customer, albeit one who had left a very generous tip. What Emma didn't realize was that Gabriel had already asked the spa's manager to permanently reassign him to her schedule. The following Friday, Emma found herself looking forward to Gabriel's appointment more than she cared to admit. He arrived precisely on time, dressed in another impeccable suit, this one a deep charcoal gray that accentuated his broad shoulders. "Good afternoon, Miss Parker," he said with a smile that made her heart skip a beat. "Mr. Yates, it's good to see you again. How has your back been feeling?" "Much better, thanks to you, though I'm afraid I've undone all your good work with too many hours at my desk this week." As Emma worked on Gabriel's back, she found herself sharing more personal details than she typically would with a client. She told him about her dream of eventually opening her own wellness center that would combine massage therapy with holistic health practices. "That sounds like an excellent business model," Gabriel commented. "Have you considered how you'll finance it?" Emma laughed. "Oh, I'm years away from that. I'm still paying off my student loans. But someday, maybe." Gabriel fell silent, and Emma worried she had been too familiar. She focused on her technique, working out the knots in his lower back. "You know," Gabriel finally said, "I have some contacts in small business lending. If you ever put together a business plan, I'd be happy to make an introduction." Emma's hands paused for a moment. "That's incredibly kind of you, Mr. Yates, but I wouldn't want to impose. It's not an imposition. I'm always interested in supporting promising entrepreneurs." After that session, their weekly appointments became something Emma looked forward to all week. Gabriel was unfailingly polite, generous with his tips, and their conversations flowed easily. Emma found herself sharing things with him that she rarely discussed with others: her parents' divorce when she was in college, her brief engagement to a man who ultimately couldn't support her career ambitions, her struggles to establish herself in Portland. Gabriel, for his part, revealed little about his personal life, though he was an attentive listener. Emma knew he worked in shipping, as he put it, but he never elaborated. She assumed he was some mid-level executive at one of Portland's many logistics companies. 3 months into their weekly sessions, Gabriel arrived looking more stressed than usual. His shoulders were tight, and there was a crease between his brows that Emma hadn't seen before. "Rough week?" she asked as she began working on his shoulders. "You could say that," Gabriel sighed. "We're in the middle of a major acquisition, and the negotiations have been challenging." "I'm sorry to hear that," Emma said, applying more pressure to a particularly tight spot. "Anything I can do to help?" Gabriel was quiet for a moment. "Actually, yes." "Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night?" Emma's hands froze. "Mr. Yates, Gabriel, please," he interrupted. "And I understand if it's against spa policy or if you're not interested. But I've enjoyed our conversations over these past months, and I'd like the chance to talk with you when I'm not face down on a massage table." Emma's mind raced. It was against spa policy to date clients, but she couldn't deny the attraction she felt toward Gabriel. There was something about him, his quiet confidence, his thoughtfulness, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, that had been drawing her in week after week. "I'd have to check with management," she said carefully. "There are rules about fraternizing with clients." "Of course," Gabriel replied, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "I wouldn't want to jeopardize your position. Perhaps I could speak with the manager." Emma bit her lip, considering. "Let me think about it, okay, and I'll talk to Victoria." The next day, Emma approached Victoria during a break between clients. "Victoria, I have a bit of an awkward question. What's the policy on socializing with clients outside of work?" Victoria raised an eyebrow. "Generally, it's discouraged. Why do you ask?" Emma felt her cheeks flush. "Mr. Yates asked me to dinner." To Emma's surprise, Victoria's expression softened. "Gabriel Yates asked you out? Well, that's different. He's not just any client. He's the reason we have the Granite Global contract, which accounts for 1/3 of our business now." "Wait, what?" Emma asked, confused. Victoria looked equally perplexed. "You don't know? Gabriel Yates is the founder and CEO of Granite Global Industries. He's one of the wealthiest men in Portland." Emma felt as though the floor had dropped out from under her. "The shipping company." "But he just said he worked in shipping. I thought he was a manager or something." Victoria laughed. "He owns the company, Emma. It's worth billions. There was a feature about him in Portland Business Monthly just last month." Emma's mind reeled. The quiet, thoughtful man who came in every Friday for his deep tissue massage was a billionaire CEO. It seemed impossible. "I had no idea," she whispered. "Well, from what I hear, he's pretty down to earth despite his success," Victoria said. "And as for your dinner, I'll make an exception to our policy. Just be discreet, all right?" Emma nodded, still processing this revelation. When she returned to her apartment that evening, she immediately Googled Gabriel Yates. Dozens of articles appeared, featuring his business achievements, philanthropy work, and occasional appearances at Portland society events. In every photo, he wore the same subtle, reserved expression she'd come to know during their sessions. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Gabriel. Victoria gave me your number. Does tomorrow at 7 still work for dinner?" Emma stared at her phone, her thumbs hovering over the keyboard. Was she really considering dating a billionaire? It seemed like something from a fairy tale, not her real life. But then she remembered their conversations, how he'd listened to her dreams with genuine interest, how he'd never talked down to her or treated her as just a service provider. "Yes, 7 works. Where should I meet you?" she typed back. "I'll send a car to pick you up if that's all right. Just let me know your address." Emma hesitated before providing her address, suddenly self-conscious about her modest apartment in a less fashionable part of town. But Gabriel didn't seem like the type to judge, she reminded herself. The next evening, Emma spent hours deciding what to wear. She finally settled on a simple navy blue dress that hugged her curves without being too revealing. Paired with the only designer item, she owned a pair of heels she'd splurged on after landing her first massage therapy job. At exactly 7 p.m., a sleek black car pulled up outside her apartment building. The driver, a professional-looking man in a suit, introduced himself as Thomas and held the door open for her. Inside the car was a small bouquet of wildflowers with a note, "Looking forward to seeing you." Gee. The gesture was simple yet thoughtful, not the ostentatious display of wealth she might have expected from a billionaire. It calmed her nerves slightly as Thomas drove them to a part of town Emma rarely visited, where historic buildings housed exclusive restaurants and boutiques. The car stopped in front of a small, unassuming restaurant with no sign out front, just a simple brass plaque reading Eloise. Thomas opened the door for Emma, explaining that Mr. Yates was already inside. As Emma entered the restaurant, she was struck by its intimate atmosphere. Only about a dozen tables filled the space, each separated by enough distance to ensure private conversation. Gabriel stood as she approached, and Emma noticed that he'd dressed down slightly from his usual business attire, wearing dark jeans and a cashmere sweater that brought out the blue in his eyes. "Emma," he said, taking her hand, "you look beautiful." "Thank you," she replied, still trying to reconcile this man with the powerful CEO she'd read about online. "This place is lovely." "It's one of my favorites," Gabriel said as they sat down. "The chef is a friend from culinary school who decided to open her own place rather than work for someone else. I was her first investor." A waitress approached with 2 glasses of champagne. "Compliments of Chef Eloise," she said with a smile. Gabriel raised his glass. "To new beginnings." Emma clinked her glass against his, studying his face. "Gabriel, why didn't you tell me who you really are?" he sighed, setting down his champagne. "I was going to bring that up, but I see Victoria beat me to it. So it's true. You're the CEO of Granite Global." "Founder and CEO, yes," Gabriel confirmed. "But when I'm on your table, I'm just a guy with chronic back pain and too much stress." "But why keep it a secret?" Emma pressed. Gabriel's expression turned thoughtful. "When people know who I am and what I'm worth, it changes how they interact with me. Suddenly, they're either trying to impress me, pitch me business ideas, or get something from me." He looked directly into her eyes. "With you, I could just be myself. Our conversations were real, not colored by my position or net worth." Emma considered this, turning the champagne flute in her fingers. "I can understand that, but I still feel a bit deceived." "I never lied to you, Emma. I just didn't volunteer information that would have changed our dynamic. If you had asked me directly what I did, I would have told you." Before Emma could respond, the waitress returned to take their orders. Gabriel suggested the chef's tasting menu, and Emma agreed, still processing their conversation. As the evening progressed and course after exquisite course arrived at their table, Emma found herself relaxing. Gabriel was still the same thoughtful, intelligent man she'd come to know during their sessions. He asked about her week, listened attentively to her stories about difficult clients, and shared anecdotes about his own week that made her laugh. "So this investor is going on and on about his yacht," Gabriel said, his eyes crinkling with amusement, completely oblivious to the fact that everyone at the table is vegetarian, and his story about harpooning a marlin is making people physically ill." Emma laughed, shaking her head. "The wealthy really do live in a different world, don't they?" Gabriel's smile faltered slightly. "Some do, yes. I try not to, though I'm not always successful." "What do you mean?" Gabriel was quiet for a moment, swirling the wine in his glass. "My father was a dock worker. He broke his back when I was 16, and we nearly lost everything. I started working on the docks after school to help pay the bills. That experience, it stays with you, no matter how much money you make later." Emma reached across the table and placed her hand over his. "I had no idea." "It's not something I talk about often," Gabriel admitted. "But it's why I started Granite Global. I saw how inefficient the shipping industry was, how little regard there was for the workers' well-being. I wanted to build something better." As Gabriel opened up about his past, his struggle to put himself through college while supporting his parents, the early days of Granite Global when he worked 18-hour days and lived in a studio apartment to save money, Emma saw him in a new light. His wealth hadn't fallen into his lap. He'd earned it through determination and vision. By the time dessert arrived, a delicate lavender creme brulee, Emma had forgotten her initial discomfort about his deception. They talked about books they loved, places they hoped to visit someday, and their shared love of the Oregon coast. "I have a small place near Cannon Beach," Gabriel mentioned. "Nothing fancy, just a cottage with a view of Haystack Rock. It's where I go when I need to escape the pressures of the city." "That sounds wonderful," Emma said wistfully. "I love Cannon Beach, though I don't get there nearly as often as I'd like." "Perhaps I could take you sometime," Gabriel suggested, then quickly added, "No pressure, of course." "I'm enjoying getting to know you, Emma, and I'm happy to take things at whatever pace you're comfortable with." The sincerity in his voice touched Emma. Despite his wealth and power, Gabriel seemed genuinely concerned about her comfort and boundaries. After dinner, they walked along the waterfront, the lights of the city reflecting on the river. Gabriel kept a respectful distance, though Emma could sense he wanted to reach for her hand. "Thank you for dinner," Emma said as they paused to watch a boat glide by. "It was lovely." "Thank you for coming," Gabriel replied. "I've been wanting to ask you out for months, but I wasn't sure if it would be inappropriate given our professional relationship." Emma turned to face him. "Can I ask you something? Why me? You could date anyone, models, socialites, women from your world." Gabriel's expression softened. "Those women, as you put it, aren't interested in me. They're interested in what I represent: wealth, status, connections. You saw me as just a man with a sore back who needed your help. You listened to me, laughed with me, shared your dreams with me. That's remarkably rare in my experience." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. Before she could second-guess herself, she leaned forward and kissed him lightly on the lips. Gabriel seemed momentarily surprised before gently returning the kiss, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "I should get you home," Gabriel said softly. "May I see you again? Perhaps Sunday if you're free." Emma nodded, suddenly shy. "I'd like that." As promised, Gabriel's car took Emma home, with Gabriel accompanying her to her door. He kissed her goodnight with a gentleness that left her wanting more, then waited until she was safely inside before leaving. Back in her apartment, Emma kicked off her heels and collapsed onto her sofa, her mind spinning. She had just been on a date with a billionaire who kissed her as though she were the most precious thing in the world. It felt surreal, like something from a movie rather than her actual life. Her phone buzzed with a text from Gabriel. "Thank you for a wonderful evening. Sleep well, Emma." She hugged a pillow to her chest, smiling like a teenager with a crush. "You too," she texted back, then added, "and thank you for being just Gabriel tonight." The next morning, Emma woke to the sound of her phone ringing. It was her best friend, Olivia. "Emma Parker, why am I just now finding out that you went on a date with Gabriel Yates?" Olivia demanded without preamble. Emma sat up, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "How did you even know about that? Are you kidding me? Someone posted a photo of you two walking along the waterfront on Portland social. It's already got hundreds of comments." Emma's stomach dropped. "What? Let me see." Moments later, Olivia texted her a link. The photo wasn't particularly close up, but it clearly showed Emma and Gabriel standing by the river, their profiles illuminated by the city lights. The caption read, "Tech billionaire Gabriel Yates spotted with mystery woman. New romance for Portland's most eligible bachelor." "Oh my God," Emma groaned. "This is not what I signed up for." "So it's true? You're dating Gabriel Yates. The Gabriel Yates. How did this even happen?" Emma explained about their massage sessions, how she hadn't known who he really was, and their dinner the previous night. As she spoke, another text came in, this one from Gabriel. "Emma, I've just been made aware of a photo circulating online. I'm so sorry about this invasion of your privacy. Please call me when you get this." "Liv, I've got to go," Emma said. "Gabriel's texting me about the photo." "Of course he is," Olivia replied with a laugh. "Go talk to your billionaire boyfriend, but I want all the details later." Emma hung up and immediately called Gabriel. "Emma, I'm so sorry," he said as soon as he picked up. "I should have been more careful. I don't usually go out in the city center precisely because of this kind of thing." "It's okay," Emma said, though she was still processing the idea of her private life being public fodder. "I was just surprised. I didn't think anyone would care who you were having dinner with." Gabriel sighed heavily. "Unfortunately, the local press has decided I'm some sort of Portland celebrity, which is ridiculous. I'm just a businessman." "A businessman worth billions," Emma reminded him with a slight smile. "True, but that shouldn't make my personal life newsworthy. The good news is that they don't seem to know who you are yet. The article just refers to you as a mystery woman." "Small mercies, I guess," Emma said. "I'm not sure how I feel about being internet famous." "You won't be," Gabriel assured her. "These things blow over quickly. But if you'd prefer to keep our relationship more private moving forward, I completely understand." Emma caught the word relationship and felt a flutter in her stomach. "Let's not overreact. It's just one photo, and I'm still looking forward to seeing you tomorrow." "I'm glad to hear that," Gabriel said, the relief evident in his voice. "I thought you might be reconsidering after seeing the downsides of being associated with me." "It'll take more than one paparazzi photo to scare me off," Emma said, surprising herself with her confidence. They arranged to meet the following day at a more secluded location, a hiking trail outside the city that Gabriel promised would offer privacy and beautiful views. As they hung up, Emma found herself smiling despite the unexpected media attention. Gabriel's concern for her comfort only made her like him more. Sunday dawned clear and crisp, perfect hiking weather. Emma dressed in casual athletic wear, unsure what to expect from a hiking date with a billionaire. Would he show up in designer, outdoor gear? Would they be followed by security personnel? When Gabriel's now familiar black car pulled up, Emma was relieved to see him step out alone, dressed in jeans, hiking boots, and a simple fleece pullover. He looked more relaxed than she'd ever seen him, and incredibly handsome without the formality of his business attire. "Ready for some fresh air?" he asked, opening the passenger door for her. "Absolutely," Emma replied, sliding into the seat. "Though I have to admit, I'm a casual hiker at best." "Don't worry, it's a gentle trail, and the view at the end is worth every step." The drive took them out of the city and into the lush forests that surrounded Portland. Gabriel was a comfortable driver, one hand resting lightly on the steering wheel as he pointed out landmarks and shared stories about his early explorations of Oregon after moving to Portland for college. "I grew up in Tacoma," he explained. "We didn't have much money for vacations, so Oregon's natural beauty was a revelation to me when I first arrived. I used to spend every free weekend hiking or camping, even when I was working 60-hour weeks to get Granite Global off the ground." "Is that how you maintain your sanity?" Emma asked. "Getting out into nature," Gabriel nodded. "That, and my weekly appointments with a certain massage therapist." Emma laughed, feeling herself relax further in his company. They arrived at a trailhead that was nearly empty, with only 2 other cars in the small parking area. The trail wound through dense forest, sunlight filtering through the trees to create dappled patterns on the ground. As they walked, Gabriel took Emma's hand, his grip warm and secure. Their conversation flowed easily as they hiked, touching on everything from childhood memories to favorite foods to dream travel destinations. Emma found herself opening up about her own background growing up in a small town in Washington state, her early interest in holistic health sparked by her grandmother's use of natural remedies, her decision to pursue massage therapy against her father's wishes that she choose a more practical career. "He wanted me to be a nurse," Emma explained as they paused by a small stream. "He didn't see massage therapy as a real profession." "Has he come around?" Gabriel asked, offering her his water bottle. Emma took a sip before answering. "Somewhat. He still makes comments about me rubbing people's backs for a living, but my mom is supportive at least." "Parents can be complicated," Gabriel said with understanding. "My father was proud when Granite Global started succeeding, but he also resented that I'd moved so far beyond our working-class roots. He passed away 3 years ago, and I still wonder if he ever truly understood what I was trying to build." Emma squeezed his hand. "I'm sure he was proud of you." Gabriel smiled at her, the warmth in his eyes making her heart skip. "Thank you. Shall we continue? We're almost to the viewpoint." The trail climbed more steeply for the next half-mile, and Emma was slightly out of breath by the time they emerged from the trees onto a rocky outcropping. The view that greeted them was spectacular. The city of Portland spread out below them, the river winding through it like a silver ribbon, with Mount Hood rising majestically in the distance. "Oh, wow," Emma breathed, taking in the panorama. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Gabriel said, standing close beside her. "This is one of my favorite places. It helps me keep perspective when business problems seem overwhelming." "I can see why," Emma replied. "Everything looks so small from up here." They sat on a flat rock, shoulders touching, as Gabriel pointed out landmarks in the distance. The intimacy of the moment, just the 2 of them, surrounded by natural beauty, made Emma feel closer to him than she had during their formal dinner. "Thank you for bringing me here," she said, resting her head against his shoulder. Gabriel placed his arm around her waist, drawing her closer. "Thank you for coming. It means a lot to share this place with someone who appreciates it." When he kissed her this time, there was more heat behind it, his free hand coming up to tangle in her hair as she leaned into him. Emma felt a rush of desire that surprised her with its intensity. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing heavily. "I've been wanting to do that since I first saw you at the spa," Gabriel admitted, his voice low. Emma laughed softly. "Even when I was covered in massage oil and wearing those unflattering uniform pants." "Especially then," Gabriel said, his eyes twinkling. "You looked so focused, so passionate about your work. It was incredibly attractive." They spent another hour at the viewpoint, talking and exchanging increasingly passionate kisses before reluctantly heading back down the trail. In the car, Gabriel reached for Emma's hand, intertwining their fingers as he drove. "Would you like to have dinner at my place next Saturday?" he asked. "I'm a decent cook, and it would give us more privacy than a restaurant." Emma hesitated only briefly before agreeing. The idea of seeing where and how Gabriel lived was both intimidating and exciting. Would his home be a stereotypical billionaire mansion, all marble and ostentation? Somehow, she didn't think so, but she was curious nonetheless. The week passed in a blur of work and texts from Gabriel. He seemed to instinctively understand her schedule, never texting when she would be with clients, but sending thoughtful messages during her breaks or in the evening. He asked about her day, shared funny anecdotes from his own, and occasionally sent photos of places or things that reminded him of her, a particularly beautiful sunset, a bookstore he thought she'd enjoy, a display of aromatherapy products that made him think of her work. On Friday afternoon, Emma found herself looking forward to his usual massage appointment with more anticipation than was strictly professional. When he arrived, they exchanged a discreet smile that held the promise of their growing connection. "How's your week been?" Emma asked as she began working on his shoulders. "Better now," Gabriel replied, his voice warm, "though I've been distracted thinking about tomorrow night." Emma smiled, glad he couldn't see the blush spreading across her cheeks. "Me too." The session was charged with an awareness that hadn't been there before. Every touch seemed more significant, more intimate. When it was over, Gabriel lingered longer than usual as Emma wrote up her treatment notes. "I'll send a car for you tomorrow at 7, he said quietly, close enough that only she could hear. "Unless you'd prefer to drive yourself, a car would be nice," Emma replied. "But you don't need to send a driver, I can take a rideshare." Gabriel shook his head. "I'd feel better knowing you were with Thomas. He's been with me for years and I trust him completely." Emma nodded, touched by his concern for her safety. "All right then, I'll see you at 7. As Gabriel walked away, Victoria approached Emma with a knowing smile. Things seemed to be going well with Mr. Yates. Emma busied herself arranging supplies, avoiding Victoria's gaze. "We're just getting to know each other." "MMHMM," Victoria hummed skeptically. "Well, he's been in an unusually good mood the past couple of weeks. Whatever you're doing, keep it up." Happy CEOs mean happy corporate contracts. Saturday evening arrived, and Emma spent an inordinate amount of time deciding what to wear. She finally settled on a simple but elegant dress in a deep emerald green that complemented her hazel eyes and brought out the auburn highlights in her brown hair. As promised, Thomas arrived precisely at 7, greeting her with a respectful nod. "Good evening, Miss Parker. Mr. Yates is looking forward to your visit." The drive took them to a part of Portland known for its historic homes and tree-lined streets. Emma had expected a downtown penthouse, perhaps, or a sprawling estate in the West Hills. Instead, Thomas pulled up to a beautifully restored craftsman home, large and undoubtedly expensive, but tasteful and understated. Thomas escorted Emma to the door, which opened before they reached it. Gabriel stood in the doorway, dressed casually in dark jeans and a light blue button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up to reveal his forearms. He looked younger, more relaxed than he did in his business attire. "Emma," he said warmly, stepping forward to take her hand. "You look beautiful." "Thank you," she replied, suddenly feeling shy. "Your home is lovely, not what I expected." Gabriel smiled as he led her inside. "What did you expect? A glass and steel monstrosity with helicopter pad?" "Something like that," Emma admitted with a laugh. The interior of the house was as tasteful as the exterior: hardwood floors, craftsman details, and comfortable, elegant furnishings. Art hung on the walls, much of it appearing to be by local artists Emma recognized from Portland galleries. The space felt lived in and personal, not like a showplace designed to impress. "Would you like a tour?" Gabriel offered, taking her coat. Emma nodded, and Gabriel led her through the house, explaining that he'd purchased it 5 years ago and spent nearly 2 years restoring it to its original glory while updating the systems and kitchen. The home had 4 bedrooms, a library filled with books that showed signs of being read rather than merely displayed, and a beautiful garden visible through the back windows. "It's wonderful," Emma said sincerely as they ended the tour in the kitchen, where something delicious was simmering on the stove. "It feels like a real home." "That's exactly what I wanted," Gabriel said, looking pleased by her reaction. "I grew up in a small house that was always full of people and noise and life. When I could finally afford any home I wanted, I realized I didn't want a cold, echoing mansion. I wanted something that felt like home." As he spoke, he moved to the stove, stirring whatever was cooking there. The kitchen was clearly designed for someone who actually cooked professional-grade appliances, ample counter space, and a large island with bar stools where Emma perched as Gabriel worked. "Can I help with anything?" she offered. "You can keep me company," Gabriel replied, handing her a glass of wine. "I've got everything under control. I'm making coq au vin. It's been simmering all afternoon." "It smells amazing," Emma said, taking a sip of the wine, which was rich and complex on her palate. "Did you learn to cook from your mother?" Gabriel nodded, a fond expression crossing his face. "She insisted that all 3 of us kids learn our way around a kitchen, said no child of hers was going to survive on ramen noodles when they left home. 3 of you. You have siblings?" "An older sister and a younger brother," Gabriel confirmed as he prepared a salad. "Eliza is a professor at the University of Washington, and Michael is a firefighter in Seattle. They both think my job is ridiculous and never hesitate to bring me down to earth when I start taking myself too seriously." Emma smiled, charmed by this glimpse into Gabriel's family life. It was so at odds with the image of the isolated, driven CEO she'd imagined. "They sound wonderful." "They are. You'd like them. My mother, too, she's a force of nature. Retired now, but she volunteers at a women's shelter and is constantly organizing fundraisers or community events. And they all still live in Washington," Gabriel nodded. "I'm the only one who moved away. I try to get up there at least once a month to see them, though it's been harder lately with the European expansion taking so much of my time." As they continued talking, Gabriel moved around the kitchen with the ease of someone who spent considerable time there. He plated their dinner with an artist's attention to presentation, then led Emma to a cozy dining room where the table was already set with candles and fresh flowers. "This is lovely," Emma said as Gabriel held out her chair. "Thank you for going to so much trouble." "It's my pleasure," Gabriel replied, taking his seat across from her. "I don't often have the opportunity to cook for someone I care about." The admission, so simply stated, warmed Emma's heart. She took a bite of the coq au vin and closed her eyes in appreciation. "This is incredible." "You could have been a chef in another life." Gabriel laughed. "I actually considered it briefly, but my practical side won out and I went into business instead. Cooking remains my favorite hobby, though." As they ate, their conversation flowed effortlessly, moving from family to travel experiences to books they had recently read. Emma found herself relaxing completely, forgetting momentarily about the disparity in their financial situations. In this warm, intimate setting, Gabriel was just a man sharing dinner with a woman he was interested in, not a billionaire CEO entertaining a massage therapist. After dinner, they moved to the comfortable living room with glasses of dessert wine. A fire crackled in the fireplace, casting a warm glow over the space. Gabriel sat close to Emma on the sofa, their knees touching. "Thank you for coming tonight," he said, taking her hand. "Having you here in my home, it means a lot to me." "I've had a wonderful time," Emma replied honestly. "You're full of surprises, Gabriel Yates." He smiled, reaching up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "Good surprises, I hope." "Very good," Emma affirmed, leaning slightly into his touch. When Gabriel kissed her, it felt like a natural progression of the evening, warm, unhurried, and full of promise. Emma melted into him, her arms winding around his neck as his hands found her waist, drawing her closer. The kiss deepened, becoming more urgent, more passionate. Emma felt a delicious warmth spreading through her body as Gabriel's hands moved from her waist to her back, pressing her against him. "Emma," he murmured against her lips, "I don't want to rush this." Emma pulled back slightly, studying his face in the firelight. His eyes were dark with desire, but there was also tenderness there that made her heart skip. "I don't feel rushed," she said softly. Gabriel searched her eyes for a moment before kissing her again, this time with unmistakable intent. When he finally stood, offering his hand to help her up, the question in his eyes was clear. Emma took his hand without hesitation, allowing him to lead her upstairs to his bedroom. The room was as tasteful as the rest of the house, a large bed with simple, high-quality linens, windows that would offer a view of the garden in daylight, and minimal but elegant furnishings. Gabriel turned on a bedside lamp that cast a soft, golden glow over the space. "We can stop at any time," he said, his voice husky but sincere. "Just say the word." Emma stepped closer to him, reaching up to begin unbuttoning his shirt. "I don't want to stop." What followed was a night of discovery and connection that exceeded Emma's expectations. Gabriel was a considerate and attentive lover, focused on her pleasure as much as his own. In his arms, Emma felt desired, cherished, and completely alive. Afterwards, they lay tangled together in his bed, Emma's head resting on Gabriel's chest as he stroked her hair. "Stay," he murmured against her temple. "Stay the night." Emma nodded, too content to consider leaving. "I'll stay." They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, and Emma slept more peacefully than she had in years, lulled by the steady rhythm of Gabriel's heartbeat. The morning brought sunlight streaming through the windows and the tantalizing aroma of coffee. Emma stretched languidly, finding herself alone in Gabriel's bed. She located his discarded shirt from the night before and slipped it on before padding downstairs. She found Gabriel in the kitchen, barefoot and shirtless, wearing only pajama bottoms as he prepared breakfast. The sight of him, his broad shoulders and defined back, his dark hair tousled from sleep, made Emma's pulse quicken with renewed desire. "Good morning," she said, leaning against the doorframe. Gabriel turned, his face lighting up at the sight of her in his shirt. "Good morning," he replied, crossing the kitchen to pull her into his arms. "You look much better in that than I do." Emma laughed as he kissed her, his hands sliding beneath the shirt to caress her bare back. "Something smells delicious." "French toast," Gabriel said, reluctantly releasing her to return to the stove. "There's coffee in the pot and orange juice in the fridge. Make yourself at home." Emma poured herself a cup of coffee and perched on one of the bar stools, watching Gabriel cook with the same focused attention he seemed to bring to everything he did. "So," she said, taking a sip of the perfectly brewed coffee, "where do we go from here?" Gabriel glanced up, his expression serious. "Where would you like to go? I'm not looking for a casual fling, Emma. I want to see where this could lead if you do." Emma felt a flutter of both excitement and anxiety. "I want that too, but I'm also aware that we come from very different worlds. Your life is complicated in ways mine isn't." Gabriel nodded, plating the French toast and bringing it to the island. That's true. There will be challenges, public interest, my schedule, the inevitable assumptions people will make. But I think what we're building is worth navigating those complications. Don't you? As Emma looked at him, his sincere blue eyes, the vulnerability behind his confident exterior, she realized she was already falling for this complex, thoughtful man who happened to be a billionaire. Yes, she said simply. I do. They ate breakfast together, making plans to see each other again the following weekend. Gabriel had to fly to Chicago for business during the week, but promised to call every evening. As they lingered over coffee, Emma felt a sense of contentment she hadn't experienced in a long time. When it was finally time for Emma to leave, Gabriel drove her home himself, holding her hand across the console as they navigated the Sunday morning traffic. Outside her apartment building, he kissed her goodbye with a tenderness that made her heart ache. "I'll call you tonight," he promised. As Emma watched him drive away, she knew her life had irrevocably changed. She was dating Gabriel Yates, billionaire CEO, secret chef, and the man who looked at her as though she were the most precious thing in his world. The following weeks established a pattern in their relationship. Gabriel traveled frequently for business but made time for Emma whenever he was in Portland. They had dinner at his home or at small, out-of-the-way restaurants where they could enjoy relative privacy. On weekends, they explored hiking trails, visited farmers' markets, or simply relaxed at Gabriel's house, cooking together and enjoying each other's company. Emma continued to work at Tranquility Springs, though her Friday sessions with Gabriel had been reassigned to another therapist to avoid any professional conflicts. Victoria had been understanding about the change, especially since Gabriel had made it clear that his company's contract with the spa was not contingent on any personal relationships. 6 weeks into their relationship, Gabriel invited Emma to accompany him to a charity gala he was obligated to attend. It would be their first public appearance as a couple, and Emma was both excited and nervous. "Everyone will be wondering who you are," Gabriel warned as they discussed the event. "The local business press will undoubtedly run stories about us. Are you prepared for that?" Emma took a deep breath. "I think so. It helps knowing what to expect. If it becomes too much at any point, just tell me and we'll leave," Gabriel assured her. "These events can be tedious anyway, the same people having the same conversations about their stock portfolios and vacation homes." The night of the gala, Gabriel sent a stylist to Emma's apartment to help her prepare. The woman arrived with several designer dresses for Emma to choose from, along with a hair stylist and makeup artist. Emma initially felt overwhelmed by the attention, but had to admit the result was spectacular. She chose a floor-length gown in midnight blue that made her feel elegant and confident. When Gabriel arrived to pick her up, his reaction was everything she could have hoped for. He stood in her doorway, momentarily speechless, before finding his voice. "You are absolutely stunning," he said, his eyes filled with admiration. "You clean up pretty well yourself," Emma replied, taking in his impeccable tuxedo. "Very James Bond." Gabriel laughed, offering his arm. "Shall we, Miss Parker?" The gala was held at the Portland Art Museum, which had been transformed for the evening with elaborate floral arrangements, twinkling lights, and a small orchestra playing in the central hall. As they entered, Emma was acutely aware of the curious glances and whispers that followed them. Gabriel kept a protective hand at the small of her back, guiding her through the crowd and introducing her to various acquaintances and business associates. Most were polite, if obviously curious about her relationship with Gabriel. A few women gave her appraising looks that bordered on dismissive, while several men seemed overly interested in how they had met. "Gabriel, darling," a woman's voice called out, and Emma turned to see an elegantly dressed older woman approaching them. "I was hoping you'd be here tonight." Gabriel smiled warmly. "Mrs. Bennett, lovely to see you. May I introduce Emma Parker?" "Emma, this is Margaret Bennett, one of Portland's most dedicated philanthropists and a mentor of mine when I was first starting out." Mrs. Bennett took Emma's hands in hers, studying her with kind but shrewd eyes. "So you're the young woman who's been making our Gabriel so happy these past few weeks. It's a pleasure to meet you, my dear." "The pleasure is mine," Emma replied, immediately liking the older woman's direct manner. "Gabriel tells me you're a massage therapist," Mrs. Bennett continued. "What a valuable skill. I've always believed in the healing power of touch." Emma relaxed slightly, grateful for the genuine interest. "Yes, I specialize in therapeutic massage. It's incredibly rewarding work." "I can imagine," Mrs. Bennett said. "And far more useful to humanity than shuffling money around, which is what most of the people in this room do for a living." She winked at Gabriel, who laughed good-naturedly. "Margaret has never been impressed by my business success," he explained to Emma. "She's far more interested in what I'm doing with the foundation." "As she should be," Emma replied with a smile. "The money is just a means to an end, right?" Mrs. Bennett's eyes lit up with approval. "I like her, Gabriel. Don't mess this up." As the evening progressed, Emma found herself gradually relaxing into the role of Gabriel's date. He remained attentive, making sure she was comfortable and included in conversations. When they danced, his hand warm against her back and his eyes never leaving hers, Emma forgot about the curious onlookers, lost in the moment with him. Later that night, as they returned to Gabriel's home, he pulled her into his arms in the entryway, his expression serious. "You were amazing tonight," he said. "I saw how some of those people looked at you, the questions they were trying not to ask directly. You handled it all with such grace." Emma leaned into his embrace, resting her head against his chest. "I was nervous at first, but it wasn't as bad as I'd feared." "Having you beside me helped." Gabriel kissed the top of her head. "I want you to know something. I've never brought anyone to one of these events before. Not because I was hiding my relationships, but because there was never anyone I cared enough about to subject to that level of scrutiny." Emma looked up at him, touched by the admission. "Thank you for trusting me with that part of your life." Gabriel's response was to kiss her, a kiss that conveyed everything he wasn't yet saying in words: his deepening feelings, his growing certainty that what they were building together was special and lasting. The following morning, Emma woke to find Gabriel already up and working at the desk in the bedroom, his laptop open and phone pressed to his ear as he spoke quietly in what sounded like Italian. "Si, capisco. Ma il prezzo deve essere più ragionevole," he was saying, his voice firm but respectful. Emma watched him for a moment, struck by how easily he shifted between the passionate man who had made love to her the night before and the confident businessman negotiating in another language. When he noticed she was awake, he smiled and held up a finger to indicate he'd be finished soon. A few minutes later, he ended the call and came back to the bed, sitting on the edge beside her. "Good morning. I'm sorry if I woke you. There's a situation with our Milan office that couldn't wait." "It's fine," Emma said, reaching for his hand. "I didn't know you spoke Italian." "Just enough to get by in business situations," Gabriel replied with a shrug. "I also speak passable Spanish and embarrassingly bad Mandarin, which my Chinese partners find endlessly amusing." Emma shook her head in amazement. "Is there anything you can't do?" Gabriel's expression turned thoughtful. "Plenty. I can't draw to save my life. I've never been able to understand cricket, despite numerous explanations. And until recently, I was terrible at maintaining any kind of personal life that wasn't subordinate to my work. Until recently. Emma asked with a raised eyebrow. Gabriel leaned down to kiss her softly. Until you've changed things for me, Emma, in the best possible way. As the weeks turned into months, their relationship deepened. Emma was introduced to Gabriel's family during a weekend trip to Seattle, where she was warmly welcomed by his mother, siblings, and their families. Gabriel's mother, a vibrant woman with his same blue eyes, pulled Emma aside during the visit. "He's different with you," she said. "More balanced, more present. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." "I'm not doing anything special," Emma protested. Gabriel's mother smiled knowingly. "You love him for himself, not for what he can provide or what he represents. That's rarer than you might think in his world." Emma blushed, realizing she hadn't yet said those words to Gabriel, though she had been feeling them for weeks. That night, in the privacy of their hotel room, Emma finally told Gabriel she loved him. His response, a look of such joy and vulnerability, followed by a passionate declaration of his own love, confirmed what she had begun to believe, that this unexpected relationship had the potential to last a lifetime. 4 months into their relationship, Gabriel surprised Emma with a weekend trip to his cottage at Cannon Beach. The property was indeed modest by Billionaire standards, a comfortable 2-bedroom home with a wall of windows facing the ocean and Haystack Rock visible from the deck. "It's perfect," Emma said as they stood on the deck, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. "I can see why you love it here." Gabriel wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "I've been coming here for years, but it's never felt as much like home as it does with you here." That evening, as they sat by a fire on the beach, Gabriel turned to Emma with an unusually serious expression. "I've been thinking about something," he began, taking her hand in his. "My lease on the Milan office is expiring, and I've been considering relocating our European headquarters to Paris instead. It would make more sense logistically, and the tax implications are more favorable." Emma nodded, unsure where he was going with this. "That sounds like a smart business decision. The thing is," Gabriel continued, "establishing the Paris office would require me to spend significant time there over the next year, possibly 6 to 8 months. Emma felt a sinking sensation in her stomach. "Oh, I see." "No, I don't think you do," Gabriel said, squeezing her hand. "I'm not telling you this because I'm breaking up with you or suggesting a long-distance relationship. I'm telling you because I want you to come with me." Emma stared at him, processing his words. "To Paris, but my job, my life is here." "I know it's a lot to ask," Gabriel acknowledged. "And I understand if you're not ready for such a big step. But I can't imagine being separated from you for that long, and Paris is an amazing city. You could study French massage techniques, maybe explore European aromatherapy approaches for your future business. We could have an adventure together." Emma's mind raced with possibilities. Living in Paris with Gabriel, exploring Europe together, learning new techniques that could enhance her practice when they eventually returned to Portland. It was tempting, but also terrifying. "What about my career?" she asked. "I've worked so hard to build a client base and reputation here." "You've mentioned wanting to eventually open your own wellness center," Gabriel reminded her. "This could be an opportunity to research different models, see how things are done in Europe. And when we come back to Portland, I would be honored to help you start your own business, not as a handout, but as an investment in your vision and talents." Emma looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there. "You've really thought about this, haven't you?" Gabriel nodded. "I've been thinking about our future, Emma. In whatever form that takes, whatever city we're in, I want us to be together. I want us to support each other's dreams and goals." Emma felt tears welling in her eyes. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," Gabriel replied, pulling her close. "You don't have to decide right now. Take some time to think about it." But Emma didn't need time. As she sat there in Gabriel's arms, watching the waves crash against the shore and the stars emerge in the darkening sky, she knew what she wanted. A future with this man who saw her, truly saw her, and valued not just her beauty or her company, but her ambitions and her mind. "Yes," she said, turning to face him. "Let's go to Paris." Gabriel's face lit up with joy, and he pulled her into a kiss that left her breathless. When they finally broke apart, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "I was going to wait until tomorrow to give you this," he said, his voice slightly unsteady. "But now seems like the perfect moment." He opened the box to reveal a ring, not the ostentatious diamond she might have expected, but an elegant emerald surrounded by small diamonds, set in platinum. "Emma Parker," Gabriel said, his eyes never leaving hers. "I know we haven't been together long, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life." "Will you marry me?" Emma gasped, looking from the ring to Gabriel's hopeful face. In that moment, all her previous doubts about their different backgrounds, all her fears about the complexities of his world, seemed insignificant compared to the love they shared. "Yes," she said, tears of joy streaming down her face. "Yes, I'll marry you." As Gabriel slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into his arms, Emma thought about the unlikely journey that had brought them to this moment. From a massage table at Tranquility Springs to a beach proposal, from professional distance to profound connection, from strangers to future spouses. "What are you thinking?" Gabriel asked, noticing her contemplative expression. Emma smiled, looking at the ring glinting in the firelight. "I'm thinking about how unexpected life can be. 6 months ago, I had no idea who you really were. Now I can't imagine my life without you." Gabriel kissed her again, softly this time. "The CEO part of me isn't who I really am. The man who loves you, who wants to build a life with you, this is who I really am. The rest is just what I do." As they walked back to the cottage hand in hand, the sound of the ocean accompanying their footsteps, Emma felt a profound sense of rightness. Their relationship had begun with misconceptions and hidden identities, but it had evolved into something real and true, a love based on genuine understanding and mutual respect. They would face challenges, certainly. A move to Paris, wedding planning, the inevitable public interest in their relationship, the adjustments of merging their different worlds. But as Emma looked at Gabriel's profile in the moonlight, she knew with absolute certainty that whatever came their way, they would face it together. The spa where she had once worked, the company he had built, these were just the settings for their first encounters, the backdrop against which their story had begun. What mattered now was the future they would create together, a future built on love, trust, and the shared belief that they had found in each other something truly precious and worth cherishing. As they reached the cottage, Gabriel stopped and turned to Emma, taking both her hands in his. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" Emma asked. "For seeing me, the real me, from the very beginning. For loving me not because of what I've achieved or what I own, but for who I am. You've given me the greatest gift I could have asked for." Emma rose on tiptoes to kiss him, her heart full of love and hope for their future together. "You've done the same for me," she whispered against his lips, "and I can't wait to see what comes next." Hand in hand, they walked into the cottage, leaving footprints in the sand that would be washed away by the morning tide, temporary marks on the shore, but a fitting symbol of the lasting impression they had made on each other's lives. The billionaire CEO and the massage therapist, brought together by chance and bound together by love, stepping forward into their shared future with open hearts and intertwined hands.